People in the world. Individuals living out their lives, each one unique, with their own cares, their own loves, hopes, and future. Some lives will be smiled on by fortune. Some will be marred by sadness. Some will be shortened by misadventure or illness. Yet a growing percentage of people will enjoy a long life, and the last part of their lives may well be spent in residential aged care. One of the future challenges we face as a society will be in meeting the needs of residents and their families to ensure the continuation of best care provision to the aged individual. Wouldn't life be so much easier if we could all just buy from the rack? Of course, the problem is we're not all the same size 10, let alone size 8. The answer is tailoring, finding the perfect fit for the individual to suit their needs. Say, brown casual, not too much padding on the shoulders.
Be ready Thursday.
Great. Of course, where I work, the needs of our clients aren't so simple. This is Bob. Bob's been a resident for over a year now. His emphysema had reached a point where he could no longer care for himself or be cared for at home. A care plan was developed in consultation with Bob and his family, and Bob actually settled in quite well.
I was under no illusion about the long term. I talked with Carol the Don here about treatment, and we talked about how it might all end up. I was comfortable enough with that. I'd had a good run.
A few months ago, Bob's situation changed when he developed severe dyspnea in the night.
I woke up, I couldn't breathe. I started to panic. The more I panicked, the worse it got.
He was transferred to hospital for acute care.
That was the worst part. The journey, being taken away, the ambulance, hospital I'd never seen before. But that weren't the hell of it. It was expecting the next time, getting weaker. Now, that got me really thinking.
We told the RN that we were worried about Bob. She got a counsellor in.
That helped, just talking helped. But still I thought, what if I get to the point where I can't talk? How do I tell him what I want?
You've had your hair done.
Yes, bit of a change.
Looks good. That's June, Bob's wife. She visits him every day. The last few months have been hard on her as well. They'll talk now for maybe 10 minutes, then they'll sit in silence for the rest. When it's time for her to go, she'll go outside. And she'll sit on a bench and cry. Bob will be depressed for the rest of the day.
She talks about the news, talks about the garden, the roses, every damn thing under the sun, but what's really important. I tried to talk to her, tried to tell her I need her. I need her to be able to talk to me about what might happen. But she says I'm morbid, clams up. But I need her to be part of this.
In some cultures and for some people, discussion of death and dying can be challenging. Often, death is seen as an end to life rather than a part of it.
I've just never had to deal with it before. I go to funerals. You expect that at my age. But see, I wasn't there when my parents died. My father died in the war. When my mother died, my sister was with her. It was interstate. I don't want to talk about Bob dying. I hate it when he talks like that. It's like when he says that it'll happen. I don't want to have to be asked to turn off the machine or pull the plug or whatever you do. I'm scared.
June has no experience on which to draw. She doesn't know the process, what will happen, what to expect. Bob can see a time when he may not be able to communicate his needs. He wants to make arrangements, have contingencies. He wants to be able to tell someone he loves, he trusts, of the choices he's made. Often it's hard for family members to accept those choices, and that can lead to more stress and greater anxiety for the resident. The last thing Bob needs now is a transfer to add to that anxiety. But it doesn't have to be like this. Look, can we rewind? Tailoring. A palliative approach is tailored to the needs of the resident and their family. It aims to promote quality of life and comfort for the resident, not just in their last days, but throughout their time with us. It takes into account changes in the individual situation, like the provision of active treatment, with an emphasis on maintaining the resident's dignity, as defined by them. A palliative approach caters to all of the resident's needs: physical, psychological, spiritual, and cultural. As care workers, your input and participation in multidisciplinary teams, in the preparation and ongoing review of individual care plans, is important to help achieve those goals. The makeup of these teams may vary, but like ours, you may have a GP, a DON or registered nurse, a counsellor or psychologist, and a care worker.
So, Bob Reynolds.
Could I say, the transfer to hospital has become a big issue for Bob. He talks about it as a journey, like a nightmare. He anticipates its recurrence.
And that would be causing anxiety, which would lead to more dyspnea.
I also think when he first came in, he wasn't prepared for ongoing debilitation. And now he's getting weaker, it's weighing on him, because he can see a point in the future where he may lose control of his decision-making.
Firstly, let's deal with the transfers. Let's get a specialist palliative care team in to develop a step-by-step plan to deal with his acute severe dyspnea. That way, we can treat Bob in more familiar surroundings.
We could use therapies too. Physiotherapy might be of help.
And an advanced care plan for his other concerns.
If we formalise what Bob wants in response to further debilitation and end-of-life care, that should alleviate his concerns for the future.
There is another element too, Kerry brought to my attention earlier. Kerry?
Yeah, well, it's Bob's wife, June. She's not coping very well at all. She's not able to talk about dying or even what might happen beforehand. And I know it's really upsetting him and the whole relationship. It's like this distance between them.
Heather, you might like to talk with June. And Peter, perhaps you and I can look at reviewing Bob's advanced care plan with them both.
Heather, we may be able to coordinate our approach, just in case June's not amenable to that.
Yes, no problem.
Well, if everybody's happy.
Remember, it's a team approach, and you should never be backwards about coming forward. After all, it's our residents, our patients we're batting for. So now, I suppose you want to know what happened next.
I don't want to die on an operating table. I don't want them cutting me up. Can I put that down?
Bob, you can put down whatever you want. We'll go through a whole list of scenarios. You decide what you want us to do.
But I don't want it prolonged. I don't want to be kept alive. That's not living to me.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
Remember too, you can change this at any time. You can add conditions, remove them. That's entirely up to you.
I say let's get it down in writing.
Catering to the residents' needs is most important, but that doesn't mean ignoring the families, because their well-being can directly affect that of our residents. A palliative approach, therefore, focuses on caring for the resident and the family.
The things he says sometimes. The savings will go further when it's just you. Such is life. But it's not life he's talking about. I'm not ready, Heather. I don't want Bob to die. I still love him, the old bugger. I don't want to be on my own.
He's scared too.
Not of dying.
No, not of dying. Of not being able to make his own decisions.
It didn't happen overnight, but nor did the team give up. I knew we were getting somewhere when one day June started to ask questions about Bob's care. Asking her own, what happens if? But it's funny, because in this job, it's often the little things that you notice. A palliative approach is all about helping us to help them. It's all about tailoring, finding the perfect fit to suit the needs of the residents and their families. It's about making a difference.